Namaste and welcome back to another episode of the Indic Talks, recorded by the Center for Indic Studies in this university. I, your host, Tirtha, am very pleased to share with you that I have two very eminent guests with me. Uh, First, I start with Dr. Sthaneshwar Timalsina Ji. He is an Acharya of the Sarvamnaya tradition of Kaula Tantra, Shiva, Agama. He is also the professor of India Studies at Stony Brook University, and he is the founder of the Vimarsha Foundation. So, namaste, Sthaneshwar Ji. Along with Sthaneshwar Ji, I also have Mrs. Sivasri Skandaprasad. She is a renowned singer and a musician. She is also a public figure, and she is the founder of the Ahuti Foundation. So, namaste, Sivasri Ji.
Namaste.
And today we are going to talk about Tantra, Bhakti, and Aesthetics. So I hope we all are in sync with all these aspects. So I'll begin with Sthaneshwar Ji. I have limited experience in both Tantra and in Aesthetics. And one thing that I have noticed is that in our tradition, Tantra studies, or let's say, practices on Tantra, have evolved concurrently with the aesthetics, Indian aesthetics. Mm-hmm. Why do we see that concurrent development between the two?
So, thank you, Tirthaji, for the question. For this, we have to go deeper to understand the mechanisms of uncommon experiences. Like what I mean by uncommon is like there are everyday experiences. I enjoy coffee, or I enjoy mango, or I enjoy whatever I enjoy, or I do not like certain experiences being in the world. And then there is yogic experience, a mystical experience, sometimes explained in non-dual experience. Other schools will call that in different languages in the surrendering to the divine. In all forms, those experiences are not identical to our everyday experiences. Everybody who has had these experiences, they say, no, this is not exactly our mundane everyday experiences. Then the question comes, what is it like? And can there be a connecting factor? If the mystical is completely out of this world, and then we all have in the world just a common, ordinary experience, is there something that bridges these two? And in that context, we have the aesthetics. Aesthetic experience from the get-go in India is always viewed as a bridge, or as a metaphor to describe the mystical. So Abhinavagupta uses the vocabulary of alaukika. Alaukika means uncommon, or whatever is laukika. You have food, you have sex, you have these experiences, but whatever you can have in the mode of experiencing rasa is very different from that. It's not just a laughter that makes one hasya rasa. There is something more enjoyable than just simply laughing. It's not fear as such that makes one bhayanaka, fearsome rasa. There is something that allows the subject to transcend fear, and when being scared, still enjoys, like in a ghost ride or watching horror movies. So there is the same applies to Sringara. It's not just simple union of two partners. There is something that elevates the experience, transcends physicality. So therefore, we have to contextualize the aesthetic experience as a bridge, as a connecting factor, between the everyday experience and the yogic experience. And there is deep sahridayata in the aesthetic experience. What is sahridayata? It is intersubjectivity. Like she sings. There are many people who sing. Some people are focused on the voice and, admiring their own voice. But she also goes to the bhav of what she's singing. And then when a singer is singing a raga, she's not just focused on the voice. There is a process of communicating emotions, communicating the bhava. And if that communication happens, for that we need the sahridaya, one who feels the same way, who can connect to it. That's why the open-hearted, a space where there is a intersubjective transformation. And so through aesthetics, there is this intersubjective transformation. Why did these classical people focused so much on the aesthetic side of the statues? Just for example, they could just put a lump of clay and call that God, make whatever it is. But they were so focused on beauty. Making a temple, they could have made a huge mansion. But it was not about the size of the mansion. It's about the aesthetics embedded within the mansion. So, puja, you can offer whatever you like, but there is the exact articulation of colors, of a proper arrangement of flowers, even the colors of the flowers, and the lamps. It's not a haphazard throwing of things if it is done properly. So aesthetics is not just about music. Aesthetics in the visual form, aesthetics in the audible form, aesthetics in the animation, like how we move, showing the gestures, the mudras, the aesthetics of mudras. And the Tantra have broadly the same mudras, not only those, but most of the mudras a dancer uses in Bharatanatyam are also used in Tantric ritual performance. So that is what I believe is the nexus to connect the mystical and the aesthetic domains. And that's why acharyas like Abhinavagupta were so focused on explaining both these, connecting both these systems.
Thank you, Acharya ji, for explaining that philosophical part. But I will just extend the question to Sivasri ji and ask her, since you are a practitioner of music, so how do you find this development that, both these aspects have developed so well and they blended so much? So as a practitioner of music, how do you see that?
There was someone who commented on a YouTube video of mine saying, you're doing bhakti, you're singing devotional songs. You have to be very serious about it. Because natural tendency is to smile. It is to be in joy when you're singing devotional, especially when you're completely surrendering. And they were very particular that I sport a very serious face, rather with a frown, or rather more sad, because our society has a belief that if you are a true bhakta, you have to be struggling, you have to stay poor and try to make ends meet, and do not have any of the basic necessities that any normal citizen has. So then you can qualify as a bhakta. And even the portrayal of many of our composers have been that way, music composers and devotees. it is always the struggle that gets captured when it comes to devotion. But the beauty in expressing bhakti, in expressing any form of art or any sanchari that we do in Bharatanatyam, is to do it blissfully. We can blissfully portray how Durga killed Mahishasura. It can be blissfully portrayed. So the joy is not in just the expression we show on our face. We can joyously be angry because ultimately we are acting on stage another character or another energy's actions. So by nature, the joy that the art brings on stage when it is performed is the most important aesthetics that embellishes the art itself and also helps in evoking the same rasa in the audience. Without the basic emotion of bliss, no other rasa can be evoked in the spectator.
So that's very beautifully explained. I was just in reverse to this question. Why was this compulsion? I mean, why do people feel this compulsion that if someone is practicing bhakti music or a raga in that tune, he or she has to be in certain grave thing? Because if we see all the devotional singers that we have, they were singing blissfully. So why do you think this misconception somehow was peddled into it? Where?
The first reason is perception, and the second is conditioning. So the perception is that, see, there are two sides to the story. If we take Tukaram Maharaj, the family was always in a very, it was in distress. They were struggling. They were poor. They couldn't afford a meal in a day. And it was considered that it was his duty to make, an effort to sustain the family. But they were not the ones that were truly involved in the bhakti that Tukaram Maharaj portrayed. It was only him. He was in a blissful stage, but the people are not allowed to see the story from that angle. So the perception is always from the struggle part of it, where Tyagaraja Swami was always struggling. He was not allowed, initially he was not allowed to perform anywhere. And then when the kings called, he did not agree, and the neighbors had a problem with it. His own family had a problem with it. So they were all looked down upon for being in a blissful stage and not carrying out what the society conditions as one's duties. So one, because of the fundamental jealousy that everybody has, that, oh, he is blissful, he cannot be. I don't have that state of bliss, and how can just he enjoy the state of bliss? One is that. The second is conditioning, where renunciation is a very tricky concept in our in our culture. It has to be done with a full heart, without thinking that we have sacrificed something. That is when it becomes renunciation. Otherwise, you're just leaving something
Giving
for the
away.
sake of it, and you make a whole advertisement about it. So there are so many people that come and tell me, I went to Kashi and left this and came. And it will mostly be something that they don't like. So renunciation is something that is done in bliss, that is done with complete heart, with complete surrender, after realizing that those are not the things that make us up, right? So because of that aspect of renunciation, of asceticism, bhakti is also somehow correlated with the same idea that you shouldn't have anything including happiness. If you are a devotee, you have to renounce your happiness also along with it. So we generally associate happiness with having a lot of money, having wealth, having health, having everything that a human desires. When you do not have the materialistic wealth and pleasures, you should ideally be unhappy according to the society. But when you don't have them and still be happy, you are seen as a weird, bizarre character.
Yeah, so that's 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 something that we can really discuss. Uh, Sthaneshwar now coming back to you, Sampradaya, and this is a part of linkage that I can find, that the Sarvamnaya tradition that we have. It has Shiva and the four faces of Shiva in four cardinal directions, and they all are, emanating knowledge of different sorts. So, do they also have aesthetical manifestations? For instance, whereas Shivasriji has said that on one side, yes, we have the blissful expression of Shringara side, but at the same time, we have the Raudra version for Shivaji.
Yeah.
So, in the Sarvamnaya tradition and in that four faces of Shiva, do we also find such different varieties of aesthetical manifestations?
Absolutely. So fundamentally, let's first explain Sarvamnaya. Some people think I coined the term. I would love to take the credit, but it's not the case. There is Sarvamnaya Tantra, and the Sarvamnaya words start appearing from like 13th, 14th century in the manuals. And my own manual from the Guru's order goes back. I'm not saying historically that old, but the preserved manuscript itself is around 13th century. So these practices are coming from ancient times. This structure of all the Agamas coming from Lord Shiva is you can find in the Agamas themselves. And the early Pashupatas, in the Pashupata Sutra, for example, written around the 2nd century of the Common Era, gives these 5 mantras of Lord Shiva in an order, and they were fundamental to Shiva practitioners even around that time. And that you can find in Agamas, like one major Shiva mantra, like Tat Purusha, coming with 2 distinctive Agamas. Some of the so-called Dvaita dualist Agamas in the Siddhanta form came from the south. Although the south and north type of identification may be problematic, because substantial amount of Siddhanta literature comes also from Kashmir, and there are a lot of non-dual teachings in the southern recension of the Agamas. But basically, going back to Sarvamnaya, this is about the knowledge that we call today Tantra, revealed by Lord Shiva to Mother Parvati in her different manifestations. So going now, tracing back to the fundamental stuff, then we will have to go to Raga and Dvesha, Raga Rati, passion and aversion. And then there is Moha as the third element. And then you will have Irsha, the envy Rati. And so the original imagery within Amnaya, the dominant emotions, are guided these principles of the envy, of passion, of aversion, of delusion. We got these 4 structures. You can find exactly the same thing in the Buddhist Tathagata Garbha Mandala, Tathagata Mandala in Guhya Samaja Tantra. It is this basically structure-wise, it is the same thing. But what does Rasa or aesthetic expression have to do with these fundamental emotions? Because if you have Raga, that of course is going to lead you to Sringara, aesthetic beauty, to Eros. If you have aversion, that is again going to lead you to anger, to hatred. How to process, it's not about cultivation of these emotions that tantras are about, but how to face these emotions and transcend these emotions, elevate from above these emotions, actualize acknowledge, recognize, and transform from the realm of. So these deities are therefore going to be different. Tripura Sundari coming from Sringara and Mother Kali coming from Dvesa, aversion, are therefore going to be fundamentally different. But that does not mean that Tripura Sundari is eliciting sex or Kali is eliciting anger. Tripura Sundari is eliciting the transcendence of particular types of emotions. The same way Kali is allowing the transcendence of those particular emotions. Unfortunately, people see the graphic image of fearsome Bhairava and then they say, okay, this will just make you angry. And then, oh my gosh, don't put these deities. They are there to help you transcend. What is Bhairava? Bhairava allows you to encounter fear. Why is Bhairava so central to tantric practices? Is because fear is the central driving force of the entire creation. Every being has some form of fear. And ultimate fear is the fear of self-annihilation, our own death. And what do? We create civilizations, we make literature, we do philosophies to deny this fundamental fear. What is Tantra doing? Is helping you face these things, but not just see fear as fear, but to be able to transcend that. And then, as I said again, that Raudra Rasa. But what is the connection in Tantra? Then Raudri, the goddess Raudri, who transcends the Raudra, who helps you transcend your mode of Raudra. If I pick the aesthetic side of performance, my Guruji used to give blessings to the singers and performers, and one really eminent singer came to Guruji and she started singing, and then she went so deep into bhav and she could not sing any further. She just broke into tears and literally shaken with the amount of devotion. And then Guruji gave like 1 hour of instruction of the role a performer has and the role of an observer, the spectators have. Because a performer cannot perform the dance of Shiva without having the bhava of Shiva. But while undergoing that bhava, a performer cannot sit in samadhi. A performer has a task to relate to the audience. She has to swiftly elevate the bhav she is going through. She has to be in the witnessing level of the bhav. She's channeling the bhav, but she's also watching the bhav being conveyed to the audience. She has a bigger role to play than even a yogi, because a yogi doesn't need to channel that. A yogi needs to channel that only when he has a disciple. Then he has to follow the same mechanism. He goes to the bhav, but he can't just sit in non-dual state. He has a duty to communicate it to the other. You see, both are modes of communication. As a guru or as a dancer, they are communicating not the words, but the feelings, the bhavs. And then aesthetics is integral to these modes of communication. Long ago, I wrote a chapter, Time and Space in Tantric Art. So I analyzed how deities referring to space, like Bhuvaneshwari, Bhuvana means realms, or Tripura Sundari, the goddess of all the three cities. So they are beautiful. There's a focus on beauty. Whereas the deity is referring to time, Kali, Mahakal, all are fearsome. and there is this also color depiction. So these are not some random articulation, because every color, every mode of emotion has a deeper transformative effect as it comes to you meditating on those forms. And the same transformation can happen even through aesthetic experience. That is the way our acharyas portrayed. They didn't say a performer is therefore like a yogi or enlightened being, but it's a Brahmananda Sahodara. Sahodara means like sharing the same like your little brother. Wherever the Brahmananda comes from, this Rasananda comes from the same like a twin sisters. So that is how the acharyas depicted these experiences.
That's really profound and beautiful at the same time. And since Sthaneshwarji, you were talking about the role of the performer, you have emphasized on it, and she is a performer. I just want to know from you that while, let's say, performing the devotional hymns dedicated to Shiva or any other deity, for that matter, have you, because you are channelizing the bhava, as Acharya ji said, at the same time while doing that, have you ever felt that transcendental bliss doing that?
It is, I would say yes, but it wouldn't be a blanket yes, because transcendental bliss is felt when you attain that balance. Finally, the aesthetics that we are talking about is balance, right? It is not symmetry, but balance. There is symmetry in asymmetry. So it comes under asymmetry. So once we attain this balance, where the entire universe is about balance, right? It is, if you have a left, you have a right. If you have Purva, you have Paschima. If you have Uttara, you have Dakshina. If you have Vama, you have Dakshina. If you have a right brain, you have a left brain. Even the entire system is, symmetry. It's about balance. And if you take a stone sculpture, there might be one hand raised overhead, but the balance is not in raising the other hand up, but to balance the weight to the center of gravity, which is what adds to the beauty of the sculpture. Likewise in music, likewise in dance. When we sing, there is a bhav that we are trying to express. If I only express the bhav, it is possible to simply sing and not feel anything. When I don't feel it and just render the song, that's when it just becomes a rendition, right? So when I just render a song, there might be, a few of them in the audience that is able to relate to the song because they actually are going through, a particular phase in life and they're able to relate to the sahitya. And that is a very rare occurrence. Probably 3 to 4 in the audience might be able to feel it. But when mind turns from a rendition into an experience in itself, and when every single soul in the audience also is able to go through the same experience that I am trying to experience, there is a collective transcendental bliss that everybody reaches. So it is not one person going to a different dimension, a plane that is beyond the physical realm, and we are going and sitting in a dark space. That is not what it exactly is. When everybody is able to let a drop of tear, when everybody is able to forget for a fraction of a second that they are in a concert, they have come at this particular time to attend a concert, and they are just forgetting that and are able to look up and smile. I think that is the transcendental bliss, and it is quite easy to attain that if we start experiencing the sahitya, the bhava, the raga ourselves. But if we don't, we never reach that place, let alone on a solo journey, but together is never going to happen.
So it's as goes, in aesthetics we have the audience. The role of the audience is also told to be the sahridaya. So the audience has to be sahridaya
Hridaya.
to relish the rasa. So thank you. Acharya ji, there is one questions because all the time we are talking about bhakti and tantra in amalgamation. So there is one thing that bhakti is devotional and a little simple, you can say, whereas tantra, as most people find it, it's more of ritualistic and esoteric. But is there any intersection between these two?
I would say certainly yes, for multiple reasons. If you find any tantric sadhaka, the first thing you will notice is he is deeply devoted to his deity. Number one, we can do anthropology of that. Number two, you go to all the agamas, and for any deity, any particular deity, be it Murugan or Ganapati or Shiva, you will find substantial amount of prayers filled with devotion. So it seems that those stabas are central to practicing tantra because they are in the agamas. So textually we can support, as well as ethnographically we can support. But philosophically, can we support this thing? Because bhakti simply demands surrender to the deity, and tantra demands extensive meditation, rituals, even philosophies. So can even tantra be considered like a part of bhakti? Because they seem to be methodically different. Now then, when we go to historical tantrikas, like one of the eminent tantrika is Utpaladeva. He is the founder of the Pratyabhijna school of non-dualism. He is also a Shiva Bhakta who composed Shiva Stotravali. Abhinavagupta, another eminent scholar, he has composed many songs, stavas, for Mother Kali and Lord Shiva and all. So how did they understand bhakti within the context of tantra? Within the context of tantra. So from the non-dual perspective, because mostly people think that as soon as there is bhakti, you need a dualism. One is the servant, another is the Lord. Look at this Utpaladeva. On the one hand, he is establishing the philosophy of Ishvara Pratyabhijnana, the recognition that I am the Lord. On the other hand, he starts the book, Kathanchidasadya Maheswarasya Dasyam Janasya Pipakara Michan. So, by some means, I have attained this servitude to Lord Shiva, and so that other people also receive this servitude to the Lord, I'm composing this teaching. So there is substantial amount of bhakti integrated within this non-dual understanding. So the real problematic then is, what is even bhakti in this non-dual context? Because in the dual context, we understand what bhakti is. So Acharya Abhinavagupta goes to give you even etymology, like a bhaja. Bhaj means to worship. How do you worship the deity? It is when you are able to completely erase your own being and anupravesha, you enter into divine consciousness. You melt into that divine There is no you left anymore. So let's see in everyday experiences, in love. There are two different ways to enjoy love. The general love making, where there is the enjoyer and the enjoyed. But as long as there is this dichotomy, not a dissolution in that pure bliss, there is no actual enjoyment. In real love, there is no me enjoying you as an object. We both are subjects, transcending our subjectivity. In the Yuganada Stava, I have tried to explain this type of love of Lord Shiva, that Shiva experiences himself as Mother Parvati, and Parvati experiences herself as Lord Shiva, because these identities are quite confusing in this total singularity, dissolved into oneness. That is one way of understanding bhakti in the non-dual sense. I don't just want to remain a servant. I want to offer my totality of being to the divine, and only the divine is left there, not me. A total surrender. There is another way of understanding bhakti, is from bhaj to divide, bhag, like bhag lagana in Hindi. So how do you divide? In the singular field, you divide as two. One becomes the worshipper, the other the worshipped. Devo bhutva yajed devam na devo devam archayat. In the Tantra Shastra, we say, first you have to become the deity in order to worship the deity. Without becoming the deity, you cannot worship the deity. But how can you worship the deity when you are yourself the deity? Then in this singularity, I become the worshipper and the worshipped. And as the worshipper, the finite being, I worship the infinite. And there is also bhakti as imposition. And in this context, like we impose meaning, like whatever daily life you have and a bhakta has is not different. A bhakta also eats food, drinks, goes to teach in a class or do whatever the job a bhakta has, sleeps, sometimes dances, other times cries. But what he is doing is he is recognizing all these modes as divine expression, and that is already bhakti happening. The way Abhinava Gupta says, Tava chaka kilana stutirambike sakala shabdamayi kilate tanu nikhila murti shume bhavadanvayo manasijasu bahi prasarasu cha. So how can I even pray to you, O Mother? For every word is your name and every form is your form. Stuti japarchana chintana varjita nakhalukachana kala kalastime. He concludes that I have not spent a single minute of my life what is devoid of stuti, your prayer, mantra recitation. Because everything I do, everything I think, everything I see, already subsumed within the grand presence of the divine. So Tantric sadhakas have a very exalted notion of bhakti in a total non-dual form, a complete merging within the deity. We call that samavesha, total penetration into the deity. And then the chanting, like Shivoham, Shivoham, I am Shiva, Bhairavoham, I am Bhairava, Shivoham, I am Shiva. So there is this, not like this ego, this body, but this is erased already. There is no presence, there is no experiencing of my body or embodied modes of being or my finite subjectivity. A total merging into singularity. So therefore, yes, Tantra also has the component of Bhakti, but it has its own ways of understanding Bhakti. Thank you.
So, since you have already, acknowledged the role of Bhakti in Tantra, and your tradition, the Sarvamnaya tradition, or Sampradaya, I would rather say,
Yeah.
so it is credited to have preserved the entire meditational as well as the entire scriptural, authority. It is perhaps the only tantra in the Kala tradition that have kept both these two, which is different from other schools. So has bhakti played a role in that preservation of the techniques, both meditational
Absolutely, absolutely. But the thing about Bhakti is immeasurable. We can teach students philosophies, we can teach them rituals, we can teach them mantras, but Bhakti, it has to come from divine grace. So that's why we can never fully structure this tantric transformation. So Guruji, I have learned this, I have memorized this, why are you not teaching me the other level? And then I start talking with them, and I may be wrong, but I feel like there is zero surrendering to the divine. And no, I cannot teach you any further. I'm so sorry. But I have already read these things. What do you expect from me? I expect faith. I expect Shraddha. I expect Bhakti. Because in the class, if you are learning calculus, you don't need Bhakti to calculus. You just need to understand calculus. But if you are doing sadhana of Kali, you can't just understand the mechanisms. That is where the fundamental problem lies in these modern Western modes of, studying Tantra. They are not interested in practices, not interested in transformation, only interested in objectifying these things and recording these things and eventually subjugating these things with their own impositions. So,
Okay. Thank you, Acharya ji. Now, coming back to Sivasri ma'am. So, can music also take a tantric path? For instance, while invoking the divine with nada. So, is it purely bhakti or is it purely tantra, or is it an amalgamation?
Well, having Acharya ji by my side, I do not know if I have the freedom to say this, but I take the liberty to say that to me, bhakti and tantra are not different. It is pure expansion into the cosmos. So, when we sit on stage and sing, we do not sing to a particular deity. The songs might be on a particular deity, but the action of singing is not done at the feet of a particular deity. It is rather, for example, we have the shloka that we recite every morning, Karagre Vasate Lakshmi, Karamadhye Saraswati, Karamule tu, there are versions, Govindaha, Durga, so many versions are there, but Prabhate Karadarshana. If the deities were different and they were different from us, we wouldn't have to worship our own hands. We wouldn't have to visualize them in our own hands. And that is the first teaching that we repeat every day so that we remind ourselves that we are surrendering to self. And the union with self is nothing but Tantra. It is nothing but Bhakti. So, the ultimate action of music that happens on stage, dance that happens on stage, paint that happens on canvas, or a sculpture that is erected in a temple wall, everything is union with self, union with the ultimate Guru, the Jagat Guru, which is your own self, your own consciousness. And that is what we call in different words as expansion, as merging, as surrender, just different synonyms for the ultimate action of yoga with self. So, to me, honestly, Bhakti and Tantra are not different. They are one and the same. Just like how we have 6 darshanas for attaining moksha, we have different methodologies to unite with self.
That's very beautiful. And one thing that both these traditions have, the Tantra and the Bhakti, is that there is an emphasis on the divine feminine. So, how do you reflect upon that?
Like I said, how we have balance in this universe. The divine masculine needs the divine feminine. And we can keep adding divine to everything in the world. I can call the divine green and the divine brown that are together that make up the tree. So, just like that, the divine feminine, which is the erratic, free flowing energy, which cannot be contained into boundaries, needs the divine masculine to do that. They are mere energies that are inside us. And just like how we are, like Acharya ji said, the Brahmananda Sahodaras, right? So, just like that, we are also a reflection of that same divine masculine and feminine energy, and it is a microscopic level that is there inside us. In art you cannot say just consider a painting. You cannot say yellow is restricted inside this canvas. You can find yellow anywhere. You can find yellow in the kurta you're wearing, yellow in this carpet, because all 7 colors together make white. Likewise, you cannot restrict the unrestrictable into a zone. So, to contain it into it, we have the other colors that come into picture, which take up the masculine energy in this case to balance out the energy. So, just like how we were talking about the aesthetic balance, to balance out the divine feminine erratic energy, we have the masculine energy. And that brings the art together, because if there is no laya, the nada is just going to be spread everywhere. And the nada is the divine feminine, and the laya is the divine masculine.
That's very beautiful analogy that you have drawn. And I would also like Acharya to cast some light on this aspect. How has the divine feminine been in your tradition or sampradaya?
So, because the path I am trained to is a fusion of Shiva and Shakti, some tantrics just focus on Bhairava or some masculine forms. Most tantrics only worship Shakti, like Kali or Durga. We are worshipping Tripura Sundari. In my own training, there is the absolute fusion of Shiva and Shakti. Ultimately goes to these Shambhava Vidyas, where a single mantra refers to both male and female principles. So, ultimately they are not separable or separated. How do we view them in everyday life? Like the Ardhanarishwara. But even more mundane, practical level. What are these Shaktis and what is Shiva? Shiva for us is the foundation. Shakti is this volatile dynamism. Shakti is never contained. Shakti cannot be contained. But it's within Shiva, within the platform of Shiva, that the Shakti is received, tapped, experienced, felt, or in a sense contained. So the story is like, let's give you the metaphor. If you have seen Mother Kali in Sthaneshwar standing atop Shiva, what does that mean? Shiva is the base, foundation, and the energy stands on top of it. So you need a base as a Shiva for the energy to stand. Let's go to Mother Ganga, Ganges, because she is the consort of Lord Shiva. So what does she do when Mother Ganga has to come to earth? She says, if I were to just simply go to earth, the earth would shatter, fragment into pieces. Earth cannot hold me. So Lord Shiva spreads his matted hair. What is the symbolism? Mother Ganges is the Kundalini Shakti. And the Shiva's matted hair is the Sahasrara Chakra. What is the Bhupura? What is the earth is the Bhupura. So Muladhara Chakra. So if the energy were to flow from above uninterruptedly, it will swiftly go without stopping here and forcefully dismantle the basis, the Muladhara Chakra. The rise of Kundalini would go haywire. And so now let's go to Mahavidyas. Any deity now, Tripura Sundari or Bagalamukhi or any deity, what do you see? All these are seated atop Panchapreta, where Lord Shiva, Sadashiva is the base. And then these are always with their partner, like Kameshwara and Mahakala or whatever the deity. So, so the divine Shiva principle is always being foundational. So people, what Shiva energy does is it provides you the base to hold the energies. So therefore, I've seen people who are not mindful of the Shiva energies and are only focused on Shakti forms, are sometimes not very balanced in as a consequence. Their energy is gone haywire. They need something to contain that energy within. And yes, they may have some siddhi, some magical thing. That's not an issue. They need to have a normal, everyday life to be able to enjoy in the world without looking strange, So the balance, the harmony of Shiva energies with the Shakti energies conforms these Shiva practitioners in the non-dual tradition, coming deeply from Kalika or Tripura Sundari or Sarvamnaya. They were also highly evolved scholars, philosophers of their own time. They were advisors for the kings and so on. So they were living a totally normal life. Vidyaranya Bharati was one of the prominent Tantric sadhakas. And Vidyaranya Bharati was the minister for the king in Vijayanagar. Vidyaranya Bharati is also the composer of the Panchadashi, the Vedanta text. Vidyaranya Bharati is also the author of this voluminous work of Sri Vidyanava Tantra. Voluminous work. So he's both a scholar of Tantra and Vedanta, but he's also the advisor, a minister to the king that demands your total awareness to daily activities. So the kind of Tantra I teach or the kind of Tantra I learned from my teachers are the Tantras that allow us to exercise this level of freedom, to be totally in the world, to perform better, not to separate from the world and become a ghoulish guy living in some cremation ground, eating all the forbidden substances and attracting all the crazy hippies. That's not the imagery of the Tantrikas. So we have this in the Kularnava Tantra. My Guruji used to recite it every day. Antaha Shaktaha Bahi Shaiva Sabha Madde Cha Vaishnava Nana Rupa Dhara Kola Vicharanti Mahitale. So the Kolas stroll on earth in varied forms, like in their heart they are the Shakti worshippers. Outside with their Rudrakshas and their ashes, and everybody recognizes them as Shaivas. And then when they go to the public, they start doing katha of Lord Vishnu, and they are totally Vaishnavas. So that is why the Kaulas didn't make a separate identity also in history. It was nobody's better. It's like they were living this life, but they were not announcing or pronouncing this life. It was a part of their life that they didn't want to be a matter of public knowledge.
When I talk to you, Sthaneshwarji, it feels like there is so much philosophical basis, and the Western, academia, Western scholars, not always, but mostly, they have stripped off this philosophical rigor, and they have somehow associated Tantra with some sense of conflated sexuality, witchcraft, black arts, and all these things.
Yeah.
So why do you think if someone comes and studies it, so what causes this misconceptions or misreadings, I would rather say? What actually led the Western seekers to have these understandings?
Several years back, I wrote a paper, Tantra in the Cross-Cultural Context. What I try to write there is, it's not just the West. We are too quick to blame the West. It's not just the West. As it comes to Tantra, we are as much the culprits to mislabel it. The West appropriates as a tool for sex, and we appropriate it as a magic pill. So all the sorceries, black magic, all whoever wants to, all the grahas, nakshatras, whatever, control, future, past, and, hypnotism and killing and God knows whatever, all the aspects. So why it is happening, let's say from the Western perspective, the West used to be a very repressed, sexually very repressed society. Around 90s or 1960s, they had these explosions of experiencing sexuality. Because we got the birth pills and we got many other means to have safe sex. And then when the gurus and they became like a messenger or conveyor, like Osho Rajneesh and so many other people, who kind of allowed these Western fantasies to go forward. Because they had this repressed desire and they wanted to liberate from this, and they found that in Tantra. Like when you see Tantric massage, they are not talking about some deep tissue massage or something like that. It has to do something with erotism, And in here, when we see some signboards of tantrics in the street corners, they are talking about fixing whatever daily problems you are going through. So I'm not saying we should not critique the West, but we have to have the level of sincerity, of self-criticism. And Tantra in particular, most aspects of our culture remain misunderstood, misappropriated, but Tantra in particular is broadly misunderstood. Where did it start from? Tantra said, there is no taboo. You want to have sex, you have sex. What's the big deal about it? Because the Smritis, they made a huge taboo out of it. And then the people revolted against Tantra. Oh, these guys are just obsessed with sex. We just did not use it as a taboo. Come on, guys, everybody's having it. There is no need. There is a spiritual awakening has nothing to do with how tightly you close your genitals. Because spiritual experience is not a genital experience. They said it's more evolved form of experience. So they were discrediting these orthodoxies and Puritanist taboos and refraining from sexualities. But then it is not mandating you. And then the negative side is when I tell people I follow strict giant dietary rules, and then people get really frustrated. What is the point of sitting next to you if you don't even drink? For heaven's sake, what kind of tantric you could be? Because they just have this understanding that therefore Tantra mandates it. What they did not understand is this is Swatantrayavada. This is the doctrine of freedom, to free from dogma. Do it is one dogma. Do not or you cannot do it is another dogma. Free our mind from these, because you drinking or not drinking, eating or not eating are as good as you wearing a red hat or a blue hat, or not wearing any hat at all when you sit to meditate. Some guru said, from now on, you should wear a red hat. And then it becomes your rule. But I don't think that there is absolutely the rule that only if you wore the red hat, you are going to have a particular experience. So these rules, as far as Tantra, Kaula Tantra is concerned, all the rules are red hat rules. So people take it for nothing. People misunderstand it.
So I was just wondering, since the texts that are there, mostly if some young seeker, mostly today, they just Google something like Kundalini Yoga, or something like which mantra to chant, or something. Young seekers mostly, because they are not guided in that way. So whatever little exposure they have, that's through the internet or the Google. So they just search on the internet and start practicing all these things. So do you think that would eventually cause a havoc in their personal lives? And if that is to be curtailed or that is to be prevented, what measures can be taken from acharyas like you and other great masters?
So, number one, these people randomly practicing things, they are not reading the broader spectra of Tantra practices. So, meaning if they were to study broadly the Agamas, first of all, they would have a philosophical awakening. And I view that as conditional to practicing these esoteric forms of practices if there's a self-transformation required. Unfortunately, most people who come to this Tantra are coming for mundane reasons. They just are looking for instant gratification, find something or the other. They are not the candidates cut out for a training like Sarvamnaya. Like someone asks her to sing like a Mahimanastava or Lalita Sahasranama, and she cannot drag them into training all the Karnataka vocal. So they are not cut out for the complexity of Shastra itself. So they want just something customized, immediate, instant gratification. So the actual hazard, learning philosophy is fine, but learning these trainings, the practices, I do not recommend, I do not support, because these practices interact with our psyche, with our consciousness, with our heart. And the more we become engrossed with these energies, the more we have a likely chance of a flip of our awareness in some unforeseeable modes of consciousness, the rise of Kundalini going haywire. And, I have seen these even when I was editing a journal, Religion. I encountered one guy, submitted a paper. He had done extensive research on, his focus was on Buddhist Tantric practitioners and how they had messed up and developed some psychological problems without following the proper order. Because these days, teachers also do not want the students to follow all the orders, because they want to train all these things very quickly in a workshop. Over the weekend, everything needs to be downloaded within a single workshop, or people are not going to come and register it. I say, how long will it take? Only 12 years. I had a student from Bengal, and then he came, very devotionally, and then I started teaching him. And then after 6 months or so, asked me, how long will it take for me to get the Sarva Samrajya Diksha, the final initiation that you received? I said, maybe 12 years, but it can take 20 years, depending on how fast you practice. So he just dropped it with great thanks, and then found somebody who gave him that same whatever training within 6 months with some money. Of course, there is the fixing there. And so now he has all the titles. So the idea is not about whether in other areas we can measure it. Suppose one goes to learn classical music and then ask the teacher to give a diploma in 6 months. And let us say some greedy teacher accepts like $1,000 and gives the diploma. Doesn't make a difference. The audience would know in a minute and just walk out. Unfortunately, in our field, we don't have that type of observable thing. But if you were to go from the agamic lens, then the sadhaka who is training the mantras would also have to have the entire philosophical knowledge, right? And then at least you could measure based on his shastric knowledge whether he has the actual tradition or not. But unfortunately today, people who can perform some magic, project some ashes or, something miracle, and they are the great tantrikas. And then the public has a different priority now. They are not trying to learn the system. Like you go to a magic show. I realized that long ago when I was an undergraduate student, the big magician from India went to Kathmandu. I was in Kathmandu, made huge performances. And then I also watched it. And then that when I was sitting there, a degree of enlightenment came to my mind that nobody in the audience wants to become the magician. We just want to watch the show. So that's like we want to reap the benefit from these sadhanas, but nobody wants to go through the tapas, go through the hardship, go through the training and, doing time that is needed, and going through some difficult types of practices, follow the discipline. When I say there is no discipline, everybody is very interested. Do you think I've come to this without some discipline? So gurus plant these disciplines. We never feel that we are actually following any discipline. They become our system. Like a breathing is not a discipline that my parents imposed on me. I breathe in. It is necessary. It becomes a part of my life. So some of the disciplines that the teachers imbibe within us becomes part of our system. And so that is lacking in today's market. And From the Bharatiya perspective, what I hope will happen, now I'm getting these platforms to address what is happening globally, is every single clown is opening a workshop or a studio or Tantra, and then some bizarre guru credit non-existent teachers, and then making a lot of money. And we are here among the intellectuals denying this heritage, discrediting the system. I find it very sad, because we could establish the center for these studies and we could send the acharyas globally, because there is such a strong demand to learn these things. Bharatavarsha can not only send the acharyas, but we can bring this knowledge, help people, deal with their personal problems, psychological problems. They need some type of self-transformation, and so many different forms of meditation. I bow to Dalai Lama, because repeatedly, if I had to find a role model among all the teachers, Dalai Lama is my role model. He has never rejected his own Shruti Parampara. Every time he is citing with great reverence the sutras from his tradition. He is not cooking up some new stuff. He is following his tradition. He comes with the Guru lineage. He invokes the Guru lineage, and he is following the system. You can compare what he teaches. I attended Kalachakra 14 days in Siliguri, and actually you can compare with the Kalachakra text with what he is teaching. And he is not claiming I'm enlightened. He's not, he's working. He says, there are many recorded interviews where he says, I'm working on it. He's not discrediting Shastras of his own lineage. Like most of these modern Guru movements, they go in the West, they discredit the Shastras, they put at the center their own personal experience. Because when you tell me, I come to you as a disciple, and you tell me, throw these books, they mean nothing. I am the one who is going to convey this knowledge, gnosis to you. Then you are the only authority. Everything you say is the final word, final testimony. There is no double verification for anything. This is not the system. We have to reclaim the heritage. Stop laughing at it. Make a proper, rational, systematic, institutional effort to cultivate that, to whatever extent we can cultivate that knowledge. But people have tried. We can see in the Vajrayana, they have developed some system to globally disseminate the same type of knowledge with the same rigor that was necessary in 1,000 years ago. They are maintaining that. And why can't we do that? Many of my friends, my colleagues, that we grew up together. I've also lived in Buddhist monastery, by the way, and we worked together. They had such rigorous training before becoming Acharya. There are these 6 months of silence and a practice, and the sutra practice, the philosophy, and the tantra practice, the mandala. Did they innovate everything? Go back to original Agamas. We have all of those systems. We just threw them because it did not suit the personal interest of some people trying to commercialize it without having any knowledge. Some students come to me, can I learn with you? I already have a guru. Okay, sure, if you want to. I'm not a guru. I'm just teaching you these texts like a high school teacher. And then they go back to their some high school dropout guru. And then if they permit to learn, then they will come. Otherwise, they won't. So I have to depend on the permission of these people who have zero knowledge of what these systems are. So we have to create a platform, Tirtha. We need those platforms, so reclaiming heritage, and not that conserving. There is also another point I like to add in this, because there are a few householders from within Nepal. They do not appreciate what I'm doing. because I'm trying to make it accessible to everybody. Because so far the Sarvamnaya has been reserved among a few families. I'm like, okay, you are born in this family. Now you do not even want to learn this. You anyway inherit this thing. The son starts drinking. At 9 in the morning, he has some kind of software engineering job. And then he has all the access to the Shastras and the training. And then he has no faith, just only interested to sell these manuscripts in some eBay markets. And then there are people born no matter in which culture. I have students from Chile, from Brazil. I have students from China and Taiwan. I have students from Netherlands, Australia. I have students from 78 different countries. I have not found any of them that I've accepted as a student any less devoted to the system, any less devoted to the tradition. Sometimes we ourselves waver. And we are very quick to judge the others. So I strongly believe that we need to have a system, not like randomly read whatever you like, a systematic training, but at the same time, you come within the system. Don't ask for the caste, don't ask for the credit, don't ask for the race or the gender, because Tantric texts themselves come like that. They discredit all these categories, you know. So like when I teach people with the Brahma mantra of the Shiva, Orthodox Pandits say, oh, he's doing wrong, because these are Vedic mantras. Yes, these are Vedic mantras from Taittiriya Aranyaka. I'm not denying that. But these mantras are found in the Pashupada Sutra. These 5 mantras constitute the 10 principal Siddhanta Agamas. This very, like for example, the Aghora mantra is at the heart of the entire Swachanda Tantra. And likewise, and so if you do not want to teach these mantras because these are also in the Vedas, then you are trying to claim that even the entire Tantra should be reserved to a particular caste. And believe me, maybe the public has moved on from that, but these orthodox pundits have not been able to move on from that. And that is why that makes it even more urgent to have the systematic training going beyond the orthodoxies.
What activities can we expect from Vimarsha Foundation in this regard to correct the measures?
Up till this moment, Tirtha, I have reserved the activity to solo. Like I'm developing courses. I have 13 full semester length courses already offered there through our websites, and I'm constantly building new courses. I have also 3 or 4 complete courses that have not been released. I've recorded them. I want to have this as a broader institution with maybe more colleagues to work with, but there is a reason why I'm doing alone. Because the first thing people want is to convert it into some type of financial money-making institution, and that immediately kills the whole criteria, particularly in Tantra. So if someone comes and asks, Sivasri, I will give you 10 times the money and teach me the highest form of raga, she can sing for him and help him to record it. That's not how it works in our system. We have to, like he will not be able to sing, but it's not our problem, He asked, you asked for it, I sang it. but in ours, it's not communicable. And then there is a huge risk of gimmick and immediate commercialization. And then again, we fall into yet another workshop model, trying to market. I view this Tantra as the body of the goddess. I need to preserve it, but also I do not want to sell my own mother. I want to preserve it in the best way. I know the system has to be able to self-sustain itself, but also I need more devotional people to come and work. Therefore, our activities are volunteer based. The websites, the Zoom, the editing, everything is volunteer based. And then I want to see if students do not have any sense of seva, because one thing that helped is like I grew up in family Gurukula, and then students had deep reverence to teacher, and then they were ready to do whatever needed seva. And so the Gurukula was self-sustaining because all the requirements were managed by the students themselves. So I do not know to what extent we can take it, but with friends like yourself, with Sivasri's help, I'm here nobody. I'm not trying to impose my doctrine, my dogma, my teaching. I'm simply following the order of Shastras, because I genuinely believe that we have misappropriated and misinterpreted. And today maybe I'm able to convey my perspective to you. Tomorrow, I hope you will be able to convey these concerns to other people, the people who have power, the people who have resources, and then we'll have a school. First somebody has to start somewhere, and that's what I'm doing now. Thank you.
That's really a praiseworthy task that you have undertaken, sir. And I wholeheartedly would like to contribute whatever limited capacity that I have in that to the tradition that you are trying to sustain on. And just like Sthaneshwarji, he dispelled certain notions about Tantra, like it's not hedonism, it's not some sort of erotic sexuality and all. There are certain also misconceptions about Bhakti as well, because people tend to overgeneralize Bhakti. So for them, Bhakti is like just going kirtan and doing something like that. But it's not so. It also has a philosophical basis. It's also has a tantra, so to speak. So can you just enlighten a bit about that?
Like I discussed this with another friend recently, I would like to share that I feel and I strongly believe in the fact that Bhakti is not going to temple, it is not praying to God, it is not asking for what we want, because I insist on the fact that the moment we ask for something and pray, Bhakti ceases to exist there. So that is selfishness takes over. So that space where there is unconditional, with no expectation, nothing in return, and just commitment to self to do what is required, that is the ultimate form of bhakti. So it is not even calling out to God, because ultimately when we have stressed so much on non-dualism, it is calling out to yourself. It is stressing on the commitment that we have towards ourselves and towards the larger ethos. So that is the ultimate form of bhakti, and the kirtan just is an eyewash. The kirtan is an easier way to attain that sense of commitment. So that is the simplest and most straightforward definition of bhakti I believe in. There might be other perceptions, there might be other opinions on this, but I genuinely believe in commitment to self, commitment to the society in large as bhakti, as devotion. Because devotion is synonymous with shraddha, sincerity. And without that conviction, without that sincerity, without that determination to do what it takes, I think bhakti is useless. The word itself is rendered useless. So that is what it is. And I really wish and pray that I am successful in proving it true to those who think it is not true.
Okay, so can we expect certain events or activities from Ahuti Foundation in this regard to enlighten the youth and the young seekers, because these podcasts are going to be streamed and our target audience are the youth. So can we expect certain activities like this?
Definitely, Ahuti is again indicative of the fact that it is an offering, not a sacrifice. It is many a times wrongly interpreted as sacrifice. So it is an offering to self. My guru had once told that when you sit on stage, you become Agni Pitha. So we are ourselves Agni, the source of fire. And Ahuti is an offering that we give to the fire. And we are offering to ourselves ourself. So that is the idea behind the name Ahuti for the organization. The organization intends nation building, to bring the youth together, to instill a sense of responsibility, sensitivity, because that is almost lacking today. It's almost to the level of zero, where the concept of paropakarartham idam shariram is missing. And that is the thin strand of philosophy by which the entire universe functions. And that is the underlying philosophy, the compassion that the humanity is bound by together. So I think that is the sense of compassion, the sense of responsibility and sensitivity that Ahuti intends to instill in the younger generation. So we are definitely planning events. I wouldn't call it events, but probably experience sessions for people to, because words don't matter anymore. So even for parenting, they say that teaching a kid what to do is not going to help. Them looking at you doing something and standing up for it is going to have more impact. So like how Acharya ji is actually living what he is trying to teach. He is showing as a living example. And that is going to actually create impact on the larger society. So the experience sessions will be sessions where we as a team live and show how to be all of this that we intend to instill in them.
That's practice over praxis, I would rather say. So that was a very beautiful comment coming from Sivasri ji. I wish the very best to Ahuti Foundation as well. And I sincerely hope that there can be certain collaborations between Vimarsha Foundation, Ahuti and the Center for Indic Studies. And together, because our ultimate motto is the same, that we are trying to bring this to the youth. I really sincerely hope that we can come up with certain collaborations and projects. Now we are at the verge of our conclusion. But before that, I'll have a quick question and answer session. So you have to answer whatever I say. You have to answer it within 1 or 2 sentences, very briefly. Both of you, 5 questions each. So it's more of a rapid fire round, just to make it more interesting for the people. So I start by Sivasri ji. Okay. So your favorite classical music instrument?
Veena.
The raga that you sing the most?
Yamuna Kalyani.
Advaita or Daitva?
Advaita.
A composition that you want everyone to listen to?
Dava Vibho, again in Yamuna Kalyani, my most favorite.
Okay. And a text that everyone should read?
Bhagavad Gita.
Okay. Now coming back to Sthaneshwar ji. So a text that very lucidly explains Tantra for ordinary people, at least the very basics.
That's a difficult question.
Not a rapid fire question.
I would recommend that everybody reads Pratyavijna Hridayam, written by Acharya Dr. And people should also read the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra.
One thing about Tantra that one must not do, or one must be very cautious of?
One should not just Google and start practicing.
So the Google monster everyone should be afraid of. So is Tantra for everyone?
Yes, it's for everybody.
Okay. A place that's associated with Tantra practices that everyone can visit and should visit.
The Shakti Pithas and the Pancha Tattva, Pancha Mahabhuta temples of Lord Shiva. So there are 50 Shakti Pithas and Jyotirlinga Pithas and Mahabhutas. They all are equally powerful, and not that one has to go to each of them or every one of them, but one should at least go to a few of them.
And one place associated with Tantric practices that one must not ever visit.
There's nothing like that. But if you, because now most people are curious about the cremation ground practices. And if you do not have a mentor, just don't do these stupid things. I'm not saying cremation ground practice is stupid, but just to take on your own this responsibility is not a smart move. You should have a mentor. It's just like if you have never learned swimming, you shouldn't start from the Ganges, like jumping and see what happens. The same way, you shouldn't start with cremation ground without having any teacher.
Okay. So I'll give you certain names of certain deities, and you have to at least, whatever, you have to utter the first word that comes in your mind.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Kubjika Devi.
Devotion.
Tripura Sundari Devi.
Beauty.
Vajra Yogini.
Kundalini.
Devi Varahi.
Again Kundalini.
Okay. Ardhanarishwar.
Liberation.
Okay, thank you. And now this is coming to you.
Whoa,
Okay.
okay.
One word or one advice that you want to give to the Indian youth learning classical music.
The advice is pretty much similar to what Acharya ji has told. Kindly refrain from learning songs from YouTube because it's gonna sound half-baked. And the nuances are learnt from a guru, not from YouTube.
Okay, so the Raga project.
Yeah.
No, I mean your thought. One word.
It is something that actually came to me and I had discussed about it. I really wanted to do. I am a very tech savvy person and I love integrating tech into everything that I want to do, especially when it comes to culture and spirituality, because it is taking multiple wrong directions today. It is important that we integrate tech and bring people to the right space, because people are attracted to tech, people are attracted to fancy things, and tech is a fancy thing today. So we should use the same fancy tech to bring them to the right space, and that is why I want to use the RAG project for tradition, for culture, for art. And I believe this is possible. It is going to be a cumbersome process because there's a lot of data involved, there's a lot of coding involved, and also human machine interface interaction involved. Machine works just by machine learning. Humans function in infinite ways. So it is, to bring them together with an interface is quite a challenge, but I am very excited. I'm looking forward to do that.
Okay. The Vana project. One word.
Yeah. My lifelong project. So I've told that even if I turn 85, the Vana project is something that I would never leave, and until I make the entire country as green as it was, I'm not giving up on my soul leaving the body.
Okay. So finally, your pet Gaudi.
Yeah.
That's the last one.
Sweetest thing that has happened in the recent times. I have always dreamed, both me and my husband, we have dreamed of having cows, cattle at home to take care of Gomata. And without us asking for it, she has come to us. And I feel it's a blessing. It's a message from the divine that the universe always conspires in your favor, and it gives you when you ask for it. Yeah. So we desired it, and she's right there. Kamadhenu is right there with us. So we want to give all our love and affection to her and take care of her, and without expecting anything in return, but knowing fully well that she is going to take care of us.
So you're getting what you wanted, and so am I, because I expected a lot of enlightenment, and I have got both, that from both of them. So it had been a very lively and very jovial session that I have had with both of you. I thank and express my obeisance to Acharya ji and my gratitude to Sivasri ji. And with that, we conclude this episode of Indic Podcasts. Make sure that you check out all the other podcast episodes that are there in our YouTube channel. Feel free to contact us, and do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.